Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Debra Eckerling, creator of the DEB Method for Goal Setting Simplified. I am also the author of Your Goal Guide, a roadmap for setting, planning, and achieving your goals, and 52 Secrets for Goal Setting and Goal Getting, how to stay focused, grow your network, and get more done in less time. You can't reach your goals on your own. You need your people. So every week I bring together some of my people to dive into the topic. And I usually say, unless it's on purpose, they don't know each other. Well, it's on purpose and they do know each other. So I'm bringing back two of my panelists from the New Year GoalChat because we decided that quarterly, half yearly, and 3 quarterly check-ins were necessary. So I'm thrilled to have Stacia Crawford and Keith Spiro joining me. If you're watching us as GoalChat live or the replay, or listening to us as the GoalChat podcast on the Marketing Podcast Network, we are so glad you are here and touching base with us today. Can you believe it's April tomorrow? Or if you're listening, it was April 2 days ago.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Time flies. They say time flies when you're having fun, right?
And I believe we are all having, well, we live in crazy times, but we're still managing to have some fun, right?
Yes, you gotta have fun.
I would love for you both to introduce yourselves. So let's do that. And I will also add that both Stacia and Keith are of the 60 achievers I interviewed for 52 Secrets for Goal Setting and Goal Getting. And this book, which just came out the end of January, I like to think about it as the antidote for challenging times. There's so many things you can't control, but what you can control is yourself and setting goals and putting in the time to make the things that you want a reality, turn those goals into achievements. Anyway, Stacia, great to have you here. Welcome back to GoalChat.
Thank you. It is always exciting to join you. We always have so much fun. For those of you who may not know me, I am Stacia Crawford. I'm a 2-time Emmy Award-winning television producer and PR and media strategist. My magic, my gift, my skill is getting clients booked on television, radio, and magazines, and getting them featured on podcasts so that they can share their message with the world. So if you are tired of being the best kept secret and you are ready to go from hidden gem to household name, I am your girl.
I love the conciseness of it, which I know is something you teach, because you really need to be able to share who you are, what you're about in a way that grabs people. So love it. And I think we're gonna have some time for media tangents today. So something I am looking forward to. Keith, great to see you. Welcome back.
It's always fun to be here with you. And I have been looking forward to this check-in. You talked about things we need to do. And I think accountability and tracking are helpful parts of keeping the noise down and staying focused. I am Keith Spiro, for those who don't know me, a business strategist, and I focus on community building these days. And there's such great opportunities despite all the noise that's out there. So I'm thrilled to be here. I'm easily focused on things that make a difference in our towns and communities, small, mid-sized businesses for the most part.
Awesome. And I know that when we met back at the beginning of the year, which, by the way, does it or does it not seem like way longer than 3 months ago?
It definitely does.
No, it doesn't. It's like a blink of an eye.
Okay, so Stacia, why do you think it's been forever? And then Keith, you can answer why you blinked.
Yeah, I mean, it just, every week is different. Like some weeks I'm looking and I'm like, oh my gosh, where did the week go? And then other times I'm like, oh my God, when is this week going to end? So then when I kind of put it all together, like even today when I was on another call earlier and I was, how you have to write the date on so many things. And I was writing the date and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the last day of the quarter. So it was like, I knew that in the back of my mind, but somehow it was like, no, this is the reality. Quarter 1 is gone. Let's wipe the slate clean, set new goals, right, for Q2 and hit the ground running.
Okay. And so Keith, why do you feel like you blinked?
For some reason, things changed. I went out there. Usually I have many different projects all over the place and you're answering calls and jumping to one fire to the next. This year, I started focusing on alignment and refining what I was doing. And for the first time in a decade, I would say I have been laser focused on very specific tasks. And so for that reason, trying to get to a point, and because when we left this last conversation, and we had Jen with us as well back then, we committed to meeting, and I know you, Deb, goals are really important. And so when I made a commitment to have certain things done, they had to be finished, because I know you'll ask that question here as we ask of our clients. So what did you do in the last 3 months?
Yeah.
3 months was not a long time for the things I took on. And so it blinked. It's here, but I have results.
Yeah.
And we will get to those results. What I do want to share, though, is you were part of a different conversation. I started after I did my book signing the end of no, actually, it was the end of February. You're right. Time is just it's weird. Anyway,
It's fluid.
When I did my book event for 52 Secrets, the launch of the Barnes & Noble at the Grove at the end of February, one of the attendees said, "Hey, Deb, didn't you used to do an in-person monthly event?" I mean, it was rhetorical. Of course, he knew that. He used to attend. And when are you starting another one? And my thought went to, it's a good idea, but I love technology. So I reinvented it. So my goal group is now called GoalChat Online. Don't you love the consistency in branding? So on the third Wednesday of the month, I am doing, it's like a cross between when I did my Twitter chat for 3.5 years, where we start with everybody checking in. What's your biggest win? What are your goals? And then diving into the topic of the week. So Keith was one of my guests when we did it back in March. And we were talking about creative outlets. So Keith and Heather Eck, who's also in the book, we're talking about the ways that that they unplug and refresh. And so the next one is going to be April 16th, and also featuring 2 people from the book. Bryn Tillman, who's the first networking goal in the networking chapter, and Jessie Sierra Ross, who is the bonus goal in the networking chapter, are going to be talking about, you guessed it, relationship development. So I love these GoalChat live conversations. I feel like the GoalChat Online is a way to merge what I used to do in person, but by bringing more online community together. So an extension of all of the things. So April 16th is the next one. I hope you both and anyone who's tuning in, and I'm going to put that link to RSVP in the chat now. So that, along with the book launch, I would say are 2 of my big wins for Q1. Keith, what are you tooting your horn about as we go into Q2?
So remember, I started this year with 3 different email addresses and websites, and they needed to come down to a manageable level. And I have less than 1,000 emails that I'm still keeping in a file storage area. The real question is, where did I start? 6,000 gone. So that was one big win. You know, the problem with technology, I don't have a clean room to say, look at all the space I got back. It's the same laptop, it's the same thing, but it doesn't have these, it's no longer being used as a storage device for data. And that was the big change that I needed to have.
Yeah, that's
Excellent.
huge. That is huge.
It is. And I feel like if you're ever stuck on anything, one of the things that you can do easily is just clean something. And it could be electronic, or it could be, your kitchen. It will make a difference. It'll clear space.
It's a load off your shoulders.
Yes.
So you can fill the space with better things.
There we go.
Yes.
Stacia, what are you celebrating as we go into Q2?
Yeah. Well, one of my big goals for Q1, I'm really, really proud of myself. So I mean, as you know, I'm all about visibility, right? And getting out there, sharing your story. And I do this for my clients, but a lot of times, we don't do for ourselves what we do for our clients. And I know that I wasn't. So one of my big goals was to get on more stages, get in front of more people, and share my story. And so I have been able to do that. And actually, this month I have 3 speaking engagements, and then I have 2 coming up in next month, and I've got a couple scheduled for June. So my calendar has been filling up.
That's amazing.
Nice.
And there is so much power in when you look at yourself as a client.
Yes.
Because I know, especially as a freelance writer, but also someone who writes books and needs to promote those things, they're two different sides of the brain.
Yes.
But it's really, you have to go back to, people need to know what I have to say. And if that doesn't get you out of your own head, I don't know what else will, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
And for these things, and I do take notes. I know that your goals for the year, because of course I copied and pasted them in the chat today, is for Stacia is to become a household name.
Yes.
And to be her own best client, which it sounds like she's doing really well at. And Keith is to finish the transition to claiming himself. And my ongoing goal is to be the first person people think of when they hear the word goal. So I kind of feel like all three of our goals are the same.
Different aspects of it. I think
Yes.
It's different facets.
Yes. Well, I feel you, Keith, are very much at the oneness of merging all of yourselves in authenticity and alignment. And Stacia and I are like, okay, world, come watch me.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, exactly.
What have you found the most challenging thus far in keeping yourself on track?
I think for me, it has been, I've been going through this whole big thing with time management, and more specifically, time blocking, which I'm usually pretty good at. But also, I noticed that and maybe this is just the way my brain works, but I get renewed energy when I switch things up a little bit. And so I've kind of done that even with my time blocking, as I'm noticing certain types of activities I do better in the morning, other activities, I might thrive in the evening. So, with that, I've been able to kind of shift things around. So as I'm just trying this new time blocking, so I'm not sure how it's working yet because I haven't quite gotten into a rhythm. It probably might take me another week or so to actually get into a rhythm, but I think it's going to be really productive.
Awesome. I love that. And what about you, Keith?
Oh, I cringed as soon as Stacia said time blocking and time scheduling. When you switch over technology and you change your phone and you start to realign websites, you find all of these obstacles just waiting for you. Password that won't change, email addresses no longer used. And I started to get caught up in the minutia of frustration. I can't take this. What happened? It disappeared. What do you want? That I thought I had the password. Where did it go? So I finally drew a line and said, strongest period of time for me is early mornings. Let's do that and take the most valuable piece, not to deal with that, but the new things that I'm writing and creating. And so the creativity part comes in the morning. The frustrations I've learned to put into two categories. It's frustrating, yes. Either stop complaining about it, right? If you can't do anything about it, forget about it. And those that I really care about, fix it. And that's all I've done is, let them go and fix the ones that really needed fixing. And that made a huge difference because I couldn't hold my schedule. Things happen, they break, and it wasn't planned. But now I'm sitting there with 3 things waiting for answers for somebody to call me back from a tech line. And there goes your schedule.
Yeah.
One thing that I talk about a lot, which I'm sure both of you have heard me and the audience maybe as well, is look at your week and see where you are able to find pockets of time. And then put those appointments in your calendar. But if you really want to set yourself up for success, find the time. Say, okay, I could do 2 1-hour blocks or 4 half-hour blocks or whatever, but only commit to what you can do. Don't overwhelm yourself. If you've got a busy week, you're going to want to put less in, but put the blocks in with the caveat that if you have to move them around a little, you can, but you cannot delete the appointments once you commit to them. So I think that is really, really helpful because it's very easy to get swayed by the things that come up. And sometimes, like with Keith, you can't finish things until you hear back from other people.
Right.
But for the things when you're working on elevating yourself, you need to treat yourself as your own best client, because you would never cancel on a client. Why would you cancel on yourself?
Yeah, exactly.
It's so very true.
We're gonna mix things up a little bit today because it's my show and we can. Stacia, what are 3 things? I want to talk about the media stuff, and then we'll go into with Keith. I'd love to talk about a little bit about the creative outlets conversation that we had. Stacia, for people whose goals it is to be seen more, what are some things that they can do to really get out of their own way? Because I feel, at least for me, and you hold these wonderful workshops that when I can, I jump in because it's a sort of reminder you can't hear enough. I know what stops me is the research of the people that I need to pitch to. I know this about me. And it's sort of like, if that wasn't the problem, I'd be on TV all the time. A lot of people have roadblocks and they can't get out of their own way when it comes to media. So what can people, i.e. me, do if getting seen more is really on the high priority list?
Yeah. I think one of the things that people often miss out on is you don't have to go fast. Everybody wants to go fast. It's okay to go slow. And actually it saves, if you go slow and really do, and I hate the word research, but you got to do your research on the front end so that it's actually productive on the back end. So I think that is one of the things that a lot of people don't really do. They don't have a real strategy or a plan for how they're going to do this. They just start reaching out to random people, and it's like, okay, I always ask myself, that's great. You could get a yes, but even if you do, is that going to help you? Is it in alignment with what you're trying to accomplish? If you haven't done that on the front end, then it's really kind of wasting your time. I mean, the whole purpose of media is for you to get in front of your ideal clients, right? The people that you are specifically targeting and trying to reach so that you can accomplish a bigger goal. The goal is not just to get media. The goal is to get media that you can actually leverage. So what stops people a lot of time is just being intimidated by doing the research part.
Okay, so dial it back to us. How do you make it easy and fittable within your schedule?
Well, I look at one of the things, I mean, everybody's on social media, right? At some form. You may be on Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn. It's all one bucket. It's all social media. You're already there, right? So, I mean, if you're spending, and for some of us, we know we're spending, 10, 15 hours a week on social media, instead of just doom scrolling and mindlessly scrolling, be intentional about that time. Say, hey, I'm going to spend 15 minutes a day connecting with people who have the power to put my story on their platform. 15 minutes, when you look at it that way, it's really not a lot of time. I mean, and it's actually going to help you, move your goal forward, move you closer to your goal line.
Okay, so can you give me a for example?
Okay, so for example, say for example, you want to be booked on your local media. Then what you want to do is on your social media platforms, connect with those journalists that are, that actually are the producers. They're the decision makers in your local, at your local level. One of the things, I saw something, I want to say it might have been like 2 or 3 days ago. And I can't even remember what the story was, but there was some story that was trending. And one of my reporter friends, who I'm, friends with on social media, had literally done a post, and they were looking for people to interview. So by you doing that research, connecting with them, when a reporter or a producer makes that kind of post, you get to see it. And right then and there, you've got a lead right there, hot lead right there in front of you, where you can just simply reach out to them and say, hey, I'm a good fit. I'd love to interview with you. That way you even avoid the whole pitch process. With that one, it's like it practically lands in your lap. But if you're not connected with them, you're not going to see those opportunities.
Okay, so find your local people,
Mhm.
follow them on social, interact with them, and be ready
Absolutely.
with a pitch. Okay, did I miss anything in the getting out of your own way? Or is there anything else people really need to do to get out of their own way and achieve those media goals?
I think that's the biggest one. I mean, being available is important, right? Definitely connecting with the right people, being available. And then sometimes I will have people who will literally go through the trouble, put in the work, and they'll write a pitch and they will not hit send. I've seen it happen so many times because they think, oh, well, they're busy and I don't want to bother them. And this is where that self-talk really is important, right? It's like, you've got to remind yourself that you're not asking them for something, you are offering them something. The story that you have is valuable to them. It has a benefit for their audience. And as long as you keep that in mind, then you won't be so intimidated and afraid. Nobody wants to, when you feel like you're asking for stuff, it's totally different, right? It's like, well, I'm asking them to put me on their show and I don't know. But it's like when you have something for someone that you know is a value to them, you're like, hey, look, I got something for you. That's how you have to approach it.
Awesome. I love that so much. Now, Keith, you have been a journalist for the Ever. Do you have anything that you want to chime in and add to what Stacia threw out there?
Well, there's a piece that's so I have a compliment for Stacia to start with.
Even
And
better.
that is when we first got started at the beginning of the year, I came away from that meeting. The other reason why it went by in a blink of an eye was Stacia's comment that she could do, when I talked about how long some things take, it was 2 minutes. You have 2 minutes. You can do there's so much I can get done, she said, in 2 minutes. 30 seconds. We have 30-second spots. We can do things like that. And that was electrifying. And that was the other reason, looking forward to reaching this point. I was excited to be able to be here knowing we would both be together on this. And thank you for that gift, because it made a huge difference. And what I did with it is I made lists, right? The lists of little stupid tasks that have to be done, or the important things that have to take time. And they sit on little sticky notes not far from where I work. And when something, here we go, same thing, right? And there's that list not far from reach, staring at me in the face, so that when somebody puts me on hold or says we'll be back in 15 minutes, I was able to create these little 2-minute jams and get things done. And so that task list of checkoffs of the time sitting there. And so that was huge for me. And it allowed me to really make progress in places faster than I thought I would. So adding the checklist to what Stacia had talked about, for all of the things that you think and prepare, having that list in front of your face, you'll know where to plug it in when something unexpected happens.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity, not always a crisis.
Absolutely. And you know what I do? I mean, because sometimes I know for me, lists can be a little overwhelming. But what I do with that is I have the two lists. So I've got my main list, but I also break it up. I have my list, which I call my big 3 and my quick 6. So I have my big 3, which are, okay, maybe something that may take me 30 minutes to an hour. But my quick 6, these are things that I can knock out, while I'm on hold with AT&T to figure out what's going on with my phone, or, while I'm waiting for something, something that I might be able to bang out anywhere from a minute to 5 minutes. And when you look at that list, it's like, wow, I just banged out, 6 5-minute tasks almost effortlessly. And it doesn't feel like it's eaten up any time in my calendar.
Yeah. Well, Debra called me a journalist, but the reality is it's a business strategy. And what I have is a portfolio of images, because a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Yes.
And when I need to plug something in, I cannot remember names. I don't take notes as a journalist. That's not what I do, but I remember visual cues and things that happen. And so, for an example, this one image was a story that I'd written specifically about art, or the arts themselves, as the authoritative voice as we go forward in these strange times. And there's a whole lot of reasons, and there's an article online that I can redirect people to. And it came up recently. And so when Deb was about to ask, what are the stories? What am I doing with these moments in time? It was refining these positions and putting them to good use quickly.
I want to add one more thing before you continue on this, Keith, is the essence of the 2 minutes, you have a lot of time, came from a conversation about media. When you are being interviewed, remember to talk in sound bites. Remember that 2 minutes is a long time, and you do not want to waste any of those precious seconds. And I love the leap from, and one of the things that I've been doing since the book came out is I started on Tuesdays, but switched up the date. So every Thursday, I am releasing one of these interviews that I did with one of the achievers. And Keith's was out earlier this month. Stacia's I just put out last week. I will put those links in the recap as well. But the point being, as part of these conversations, which I believe I started recording before we had this conversation, was I ask everybody, what is that 2-minute tip? What is something anyone could do in 2 minutes? So I love how all the lines connect and interact, because when you think of 2 minutes, it is 2 minutes is a stage where you can showcase yourself. 2 minutes is also an opportunity to get quick things done. And then there's the range of everything in between them. And that's magic. Everything, achieving your goals sometimes feels like it takes forever, but doing the things you need to do to get where you want to go, not necessarily.
That's right.
When you look at them as task by task.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, even, when you think of 2 minutes, like you said, 2 minutes in TV time, 2 minutes is an eternity. It really is. It's like, I've seen stuff, rain down fire in 2 minutes. I mean, things can go from great to not so great in a very short amount of time. But I mean, 2 minutes for you to actually, I had a client recently who originally, when we booked the interview, they had a 5-minute time block. Well, there was breaking news. And so they ended up having to, collapse their show. And as it turned out, the client only had 2 minutes. So she was still able to do it because of the way, that my team and I had trained her. She was still able to get her message across in that 2 minutes. But to recognize 2 minutes is actually a lot of time. So you can get a lot done.
So before we take you into playtime on creative outlets, Keith, do you have any additional recommendations about how to show up for yourself and your audience so you put your best foot or face forward?
I would say that the best way to put your best foot forward is to have, whether it's a file or a portfolio, but those little 2-minute snippets, and I won't let go of that because it has been electrifying for me for now 3 months, is these are things that are containerized. It's the breakout in case of fire. It's the fire hose. It's the way to take action immediately. And so the advice is take a look at where your strengths are and where your strong points are, and have that list of positive sound bites that in the worst of times also may be the way out of that problem into something new.
That's so cool. And as I said earlier, I've been really leaning into my book as the solution to all of the challenges in the world can be solved by reading 52 Secrets.
There are many challenges right now.
Yeah.
So we're all busy.
Well, but I say that sarcastically and not sarcastically. Genuinely, when you take whether it's a 2-minute or 5-minute or whatever, and work on something you have control over that brings you joy, that's going to uplift who you are, and that's going to show in your next conversation,
Yes.
your next interaction, your next activity, even if it's just yourself. If you do something that brings you joy and then you got to get to work or whatever, you still have some like joy reserves to keep you uplifted, even when you're doing the things that do not build on that. Okay, people, they're nodding, right? They're nodding. For those listening to audio, they're like, yeah, Deb,
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that's important, right? I mean, things that bring you joy, because especially when you have to do scary things, it's like as a business owner, you got to do scary things. You got to make sales calls and reach out to potential clients. When you're talking about getting booked in the media, that could be a scary thing, talking in front of what could be tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people. And so, yeah, you want to have those little deposits of joy to kind of keep you going when you have to confront those intimidating situations. So, yeah, I love that. And that, that could be any number of things. It could be, maybe a workout in the morning, or it could be, a mantra or affirmation that you do before you do the scary thing.
And another way that you bring joy to your life is through creative outlets. See what I did there? So, Keith, why don't you share a little bit about the power of doing that?
So the power, I'm going to go back to these sharing tidbits of joy. For those who are listening or watching who are visual people, much of that joy comes through looking at things, looking at art in a museum or street art with graffiti and mural painting. A lot of murals in our town going up regularly. We have a whole arts program going on. And so some people think in sound bites. I think in terms of visuals. And when you talk about creative outlets and juices and moments of joy, I was reaching for images that I have within hand's distance. I showed this one before. It tells lots of stories, but you have 2 minutes and here are 4 images, all set to go. They are postcards and they became note cards in an instant. So when you talk about creative and joyful moments, my Rolodex or my file is filled with these visual images of things that make a difference. New Hampshire right now is having a struggle, and I'm sure this is in many places, of what are they cutting, right? So I don't want to get into politics, but arts, sports getting cut out of programs, and these are things people do to feel good. And there's a budget issue. And right where we sit now, there's a discussion of whether or not they're going to cut arts from budgets and what they're going to do with it. And an arts coalition, Arts for New Hampshire, got together and looked at the numbers. In New Hampshire, $3.4 billion a year is spent on construction, with everybody moving up this way lately. And $3.4 billion is also the amount that the arts generate across the state in a year. So is it something that should be cut, or is it something that should be amplified? And we had an opportunity the other night where I said, well, how about a tabling event? Let's put this together. And so I grabbed images, cut them into postcards, put out a petition, and we were able to have conversations around the arts, appreciating the people who were presenting it, the organizations like a symphony. In this particular case, Symphony New Hampshire was doing things for the arts and raising awareness at the same time. So when it comes to voting or budgeting, to recognize that $3.4 billion is an awful lot of money that is generated by art organizations, traffic, people coming into those areas. So there's your creative juices. For me, it's visual. Grab it, take it, run with it as a flag or as a visual cue for people.
And it's your art that you look at, but not always.
Oh, not always. I see other people's art, right? I see visual images everywhere. So whether I'm looking at static art on a wall or I'm looking at a room full of people, I compose that visual. So taking photos to me is capturing that image in a moment. Concert, gentleman by the name of Herb Smith, great jazz trumpeter, is also a conductor. And I have this absolute visual of him at work. The art that he's creating is oral. The art that I created was a capturing of a moment in time. And I don't know if we can do a screen share here, or I'll just give a link that you can go to afterwards. It's easier. But you'll see a series of 4 images that I took. And because of technology, was able to turn one into a print as a thank you gift to him within a 24-hour period. And he was just flattered. First time he'd ever been to New Hampshire, first time working with Symphony New Hampshire. And he thought, oh, great, a picture of the orchestra. And then he turns it over because he saw the signatures and he goes, whoa, I'm in this picture. So is that my work, or is it some, I'm very different about these definitions, because creative outlet for me is releasing those moments of joys that the two of you talked about earlier. I'm capturing a moment in time that can be re-released. And I'm just thinking this through because it's very interesting to think about what I do as a creative outlet versus creating art. I'm a communicator, but yet you've given me a whole different way to look at it.
That's really cool. What's your take on this, Stacia?
Creative outlets. I think creativity is so crucial. And in so many areas of our lives. I mean, for me, I definitely consider myself a creative. I mean, whether it's writing, obviously I'm a writer, right? I've been a TV news producer, and a big part of that is, writing stories and storytelling. And now I help my clients with, how to tell stories that resonate. But creativity is kind of sown throughout. It's throughout our lives. Whether it's things that you look at, things that you write, whether it's musically. I know I don't consider myself a singer in no way, shape, or form, although I used to be in the choir back in college, but that was a long time ago. But I still love to sing, even though now it's only, I'll sing to my dogs or sing in the shower. That's about it. but that is one of my creative outlets. I also love to draw, and even if sometimes it's drawing in the manner of me, like drawing and painting where I'm creating images. But what I've really fallen in love with lately is just coloring. I order coloring books online, and, I just buy markers. And when I just need a creative outlet, or sometimes just as a stress relief, I just love to just sit and color. And it's just fascinating to me.
It is, Stacia. And I would tell you that what happens when you're using your creative juices is you're not doom scrolling. Right. You're not being interrupted by all this inbound stuff hitting you a million different ways to Tuesday. You're actually creating this aura, this protective globe around yourself, as your brain is relaxing, going, I could do this. And, ooh, isn't that interesting? And what a gorgeous color. And it just grows from there.
Yeah. And I get so many ideas like that, when I actually take the time, because sometimes people will think, I don't have time for that. I'm too busy. I got stuff to do. I don't have time for that. But when you actually slow down and really plug into those creative outlets, it's amazing how many ideas you get. Because I know I do. If I'm, I spend an hour coloring and I walk away and I'm like, oh my gosh, I could do this in my business and I can do that. And, maybe I can do this for my clients. And it's so eye-opening.
I use cooking the way you use coloring. I love it because you cannot be on your computer or on your phone and chopping vegetables.
Right.
I mean, that would be a hazard. Yeah. But because whether it's that or making pancakes or whatever it is, I love that. And it could be washing dishes, folding laundry, anything that takes you away from being connected to all the ick in the world. That would be the technical term, right? But that, or even if you're waiting to hear back from someone and you're like going a little bit nuts, well, do something creative. And I like cooking as an outlet because you get rewarded with food, but really anything that says get up, walk away, and do something else is going to nourish your spirit, whether it is something traditionally creative or just emotionally satisfying.
Oh, I so agree. You know, you're going from inbound, all of this stuff hitting you, to outward. You're
Outbound.
taking your strengths and energies and you put them back out there. In an orchestra, you know, you hear the crescendos and you hear all of the loud points. You know, the most pivotal movement and the most pivotal moment inside of a concert? It's the silence. That moment of silence as it shifts gears.
Yeah.
And you don't fill it with noise. It's like white space when you take photos. You're drawn to it because it's peaceful. And you get to exude the energies as instead of being on defense all the time.
Yeah, I love that.
I was going to say white space, and then I heard white space come out of your mouth. So thank you for getting the telepathy. Although you are a photographer, I did actually expect that. So thank you for not disappointing me is probably the better compliment. I feel like to sort of merge the 2-minute thing with the creative thing. One thing that I frequently recommend is that if an appointment gets canceled, don't fill it with work for other people. Fill it with stuff that nourishes yourself, because it's like bonus time.
Yeah, exactly.
So treat it as the gift that it is, rather than with more frustration or grunt work or whatever.
Yeah, that's a tough one, because I know even for me, you know, if that happens and I have this unexpected space, my first thought is, oh, great, I can catch up on something. Instead of me saying, oh, well, go take a walk, enjoy the sunshine, you know, take the dogs outside, or, you know, listen to some music. So I love that you say, treat it as the gift that it is.
And Stacia, I really want to stay with this. 2 minutes has been all over my mind for this thing. You gifted that to us. And when we were talking earlier, we're all talking at that point, at an earlier point in this conversation, as media people, and what you do and what each of us do for our clients, our prospective clients. Fill that space and do something. You sent me home with the gift of I could accomplish something for myself in 2 minutes.
Yes.
And so when I talked about white space, or we talk about that moment of silence, that's your chance to simply use the tools that you would use on your clients for yourself. And it never got through to me until you delivered that. So I want to give it back to you here.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I receive it.
Okay, I want to give a yes and. If getting something off your plate will free up me time for you later, that's okay. I'll give you an exception to the rule, because I'm also a big fan of time swapping. I remember the beginning of the pandemic when no one was driving anywhere. I'm like, calculate how much bonus time you have every week because you're no longer commuting.
Yes.
What can you do with that time? And if you're not finding time to do the things that you love or that are building towards your goals, your long-term goals, creating this future you want, look at your day and see, is there something you're doing that can get outsourced? Or is there something you are doing that just does not need to be done?
Yeah.
You know, what can you fill time with? That, where can you find, I know what I'm saying. I'm just saying it 5 different ways until I get it right. Is there a project you need to hit the pause button on so you could put your focus on something else? Is there, this week, I'm part of Women's National Book Association, on the board of San Francisco chapter, even though I live in LA, but we're doing our annual Pitchorama on Saturday, the 5th, where people can go in and pitch their fiction or nonfiction books to agents and publishers. And I happen to have 4 book proposal clients that are pitching their work. This week is a busy week for me and I'm working at them with various levels. Some are like, I consult and send them on their way, and others are more ongoing or more hands-on. I know this is a busy week because I'm helping a couple clients finish up their projects. That means when I look at my week, how much Deb time is there? A little bit less than normal, but that's okay because next week I will be able to find the balance. So sometimes it happens that you have to prioritize things above yourself, just as a reminder that you will get back to you.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good reminder, because I know I often forget that.
Well, another really good example is 52 Secrets. I sent the book proposal out the end of March, and I got the go-ahead in June, and I turned it in August. And yes, I probably did most of it the last month, because that's what happens when you're working on books. But less than 3 months is not typical for writing a manuscript, but it's a priority thing. That to me got to take center stage, and it was fun. It really hit all of my joy senses, because one thing that I love is talking to people and just sharing what works for them to motivate and help others, which is what 52 Secrets is all about. So even in also my client work, I absolutely love the puzzle of the book proposal, which is why I've been leaning more into it as a service I offer. But because so it's work, but it's not work. These are joy things. It's just a matter of reprioritizing what gets done when, and then you get to go on to the other things.
Yes. Yes.
And we're all saying very similar variations on it, right? If it's something that's important, whether it's to you or to a client or a prospect, or something you're contemplating as a client or a business, the passion and speed with which you can execute accelerates in direct proportion to the amount of interest, concern, focus, excitement, and joy that you get out of it.
Yep.
And so as you start to narrow that focus for important things, you can lift faster and longer for these short spurts, and actually in 2 minutes accomplish a good number of things that you would drag out over an hour of thinking through. But there's now a deadline, and now you work it.
Yeah, deadlines can be your friend, right?
Also your friend, eating dessert first. So by doing the joy things first, you've got the energy, and you're going to accomplish the other things quicker. Or even better, sandwich them. Start with something of joy, then do the other stuff, and then reward yourself with more joy.
I love that.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
I think we just solved all the world's problems, friends.
I love that. It's a joy sandwich. Let's all have
It's a joy sandwich. Absolutely.
Love it.
So what I want to know is, and I also would love to get for you all to gift some goals to the audience, obviously, because it would not be GoalChat without gifting out the goals. But what 1 or 2 things do you plan to accomplish by the next time we meet, which will be for our happy mid-year party? So Keith, what are your top couple of goals?
My goals, not the ones I'm gifting.
No, we do ourselves, and then we gift them.
So the biggest one out there is to complete the new website. It's almost alive. It can be found, but like everything else, moving away from Keith Spiro Media, Keith Spiro Photography, all of these long wordy things, it's coming down to a very simple keithspiro.com. And what I will gift myself in these little time slots between now and the next quarter is to have it ready for prime time and out there in a usable form. And it's out there now, so I can actually, if people want to comment or see it, take a look. I'm always interested in feedback, because it's only as good as the interactions that take place there. But I would like to see, when I get to that next time juncture, that the others start to fade back as this moves forward.
I like it. And is there something of a personal goal that you want to throw in there as well?
I think the two, since my name is all over, probably run pretty close together on that one.
Okay, I like it. Stacia, what goals are you going to accomplish by our next meet?
Well, I have 2 big goals. One is that I am in the process, or getting ready to begin the process, of systematizing my framework and really tightening things up. The framework that I use to get my clients booked in the media, it absolutely works brilliantly. I've been delivering it for years. But I actually want to start documenting that process as I'm bringing on new team members. And and as I'm documenting the process so that new team members who come on board, it's not just me kind of walking them through it, but I'll actually have it systematized and automated so that they can fall right in line with that process. And then
before you continue, do you know what my next statement is going to be?
uh-oh.
It's a
When are we
book, you
working
can
on your
scale
book
it.
proposal, Stacia?
I see it as a scalable business.
Right? Okay. Wow. Okay. Does that need to be my, do I put that out into the universe?
What, to write this as a book?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's, if you go to thedebmethod.com/books-with-deb, there's an article I wrote on how to brainstorm your book proposal. I'll put that link in the recap as well, which I think might be helpful, but we can also talk a little bit more offline. But when you are at that point, now remember, your goal guide was originally entitled The Deb Method. That's what the first book proposal went out as, and it came back with, Deb, do you mind if we change your title? But the book was My System for Goal Setting Simplified, and then the second half, Strategies for Success. And one thing I find, whether you're offering a framework as part of your business or a course, why wouldn't you put it in book proposal format and send it out to the world?
I got chills when you said that. I was like, I'm like completely now, like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
And Stacia, when you need that 5-minute pick me up, just give me a call.
Okay.
I'll keep you back on track for scaling it. I see it coming.
I love it. I love it.
Fire hose of opportunity.
Okay. And what was your other goal?
My other goal was to hire a new assistant. You know, kind of as I'm scaling, I want to take myself out of all of the day-to-day and kind of bring some additional team members on board to take some other tasks off of my plate.
Awesome. Okay, great. Well, now that we know what you guys are going to do, what goals do you want to gift to our audience? Stacia, do you want to start?
Oh gosh. Yeah, let me think.
Or do you want me to go to Keith first?
Yeah, go to Keith first. I'm like, I knew you were gonna ask this. Why was I not prepared for that?
I don't know.
I know I'm going to shock you, Stacia, but the first goal I'm going to give to everyone is to take 2 minutes, just plug it into your day, and in that 2 minutes, sit down and write 3 or more key tasks that by doing that, you will achieve either a personal or business goal that's really important to you. So that's the first gift.
I love it.
Give yourself 2 minutes whenever you suddenly think, oh, what a waste of time. Never. Grab it, get that list out there.
I love that. I love that.
The second gift is the second time you have 2 minutes. Take the list of people who you haven't talked to that you should be talking to, so that it's not a surprise or emergency when you go, hey, my book's being launched, I'm hoping you can talk to me. You know, it's prepare for these moments. Yeah. These 90 days were not, they went by in a minute and a half.
Yeah.
So you want to make a list of people you can reach out to when you have another 2 minutes to say hi.
Right. It's keeping it's refreshing. You know, one of the things that happens to all of us, we get caught up in tasks and we forget that tasks are done through teams for the most part to be successful.
Well,
so you have to make sure that you're talking to people and not in isolation. List of tasks, list of important people, 4 minutes, you're a winner.
And you can't reach your goals on your own. I've heard that.
That's right.
I've heard
from me constantly.
Yeah. And I love that too, Keith, because that is really one of the things that I do that. because in PR and media, it really is, especially PR. It's all about relationship building, and so having those little touches, those little check-ins, it's all a part of relationship building.
Right.
I mean, even if it's just like you said, a 2-minute conversation, or for me, sometimes it's just a little note, because I know that the art of writing handwritten notes has kind of gone by the wayside. And so I love to have a stack of just blank, beautiful cards. Oh my, look at this. See? So when
Picture on one side, blank on the other. Out it goes.
And you just, send
Postcard.
a note.
Or note card.
Hey, just thinking about you, checking in to see what was going on. So yeah, I love that. Thank you for that, Keith.
I'm going to, before we go to Stacia's goal, I'm going to add what you should do for either your first, second, or third 2-minute sprint is to make a joy list. Make a list of the things that bring you joy for when you need that charge of good energy. Okay, Stacia, your turn.
Okay, so then for me is number one, my gift is for you to actually take inventory of the story ideas that you could pitch to a media outlet. Because sometimes we, we'll come up with an idea and we think, oh, well, this is, who I am and what I do, not recognizing that those story ideas, that you need to have a steady flow of them. So even if you look at, 3 months at a time, what are the stories that I could be pitching this month, right? It's, like right now it's springtime. A lot of stations are looking for things that are related to spring and renewal, right? If you're a health coach, if you're a really
goal strategist,
right? I mean, that is right in line with what's going on. Fashion designer. I met with someone who was a stylist the other day, and I was like, yeah, you could be doing some media right now, because people are all about, let's get out of this winter wardrobe. Let's get the spring wardrobe together. So I would say, gift yourself some time to actually outline what are some story ideas that I could be pitching. And this should be a running list. Like, keep a little notepad in your briefcase or in your bag or in your back pocket. And when those, or the notes app on your phone, and when those things come up, just kind of keep a running list of them, so you never run out of ideas that are going to be relevant to the media at any given time.
The other thing you can do, and this is, I also keep a win list. So the end of every day, I will write 1 to 3 wins, and I keep it as a calendar appointment. So make a calendar appointment with pitch ideas, and you can just keep it every Friday that you go in, but you've got an appointment that reminds you to make your list. But if you have an idea, it's right at your fingertips that you could just jump on in.
Yes.
And add to it.
Yes, absolutely. I love that.
Okay. Did you have another one, or we're sticking with the one?
I do have another one. And then this one is, this one's kind of for everybody too. And it actually came because I was recently at a retreat, and a lot of business owners. And one of the things that we found is that, there's this thing that we call imposter syndrome, right? We all go through this. Well, I'm not good enough. I'm not ready. What if people find out that I'm a fraud? This whole thing. And one of the things that I think that kind of helps me to avoid that is to keep a running list of all the great things that people say about you, no matter what it is. I mean, someone could say, oh my gosh, your skin is really glowing. Or, hey, I really love the way you help that person who is in need. Because oftentimes we kind of undervalue ourselves. And so we need to be reminded of, how truly amazing we really are. Because otherwise what we end up doing is we end up comparing ourselves to other people. And we know comparison is the thief of joy, right? You can't compare yourself to anyone else, but really stand in your own uniqueness and your own magic. And so being able to say, Keith, you gave me a wonderful one today. And, talking about how that 2-minute tip was so electrifying and how it impacted you. That's going on my list. So whenever, it's like, because we forget how we actually.
Oh, it's so true. We don't I'm you
Absolutely.
say it, I'm thinking, yeah, but this person did that, and I don't keep that list. And yes, there have been many nice things said over the years because there's a lot of experience behind what I do.
Yeah. And we will forget it. And sometimes we may revel in it for a moment, but it doesn't latch on. It doesn't
No.
stay with us. We're on to the next thing. We're looking for the next dopamine hit, right? But it's like we need a place to kind of have those and be able to, even if it's
How do you save them and where do you put them? I used the term Rolodex earlier. I haven't used a Rolodex ever. Most of the stuff is here
all the time, and people look at me like, "What is a Rolodex? What is that?"
Well, I've put them on electronic files. I put them on scraps of paper, but where do it's been in the head.
I would say do a calendar appointment.
Yeah.
So it's another reminder. So now we've got 3.
Yeah.
We've got one that's the win a day list.
But what
that
you're going to keep it on a calendar?
On the electronic calendar.
On a calendar.
On the electronic calendar. Let's say Sunday is compliment day. So every Sunday you get a reminder to write out the compliments that you received that week. Or if you get one that's too good, you put it in immediately.
Yeah.
And then Friday, keep that other ongoing list of story ideas.
Yeah.
Because when you get the appointment reminders with the alerts, it's like, oh, I haven't done that in days. I need to remember to do that.
So can I ask a question? Because I'm part of this audience that says, I don't know how to actually physically do that. Where do I put this note? Where is it in the Google Calendar? And then I go
the
and look
Google
back
Calendar. That's what I use.
So it's not a summary of compliments, a summary of tasks.
It
is by day.
You start a calendar appointment that says April compliments. And actually you could just keep it as April 1st. You put a calendar appointment at a good time of day for you, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, whenever. And then whenever you get a compliment, you go and you edit the calendar appointment and you write the person who said it.
Okay.
And then what they said. And then bonus, write them a thank you. What they said and why it was meaningful. Let's start this trend of not just trend of kindness, appreciation for the good that comes into our lives, and then appreciating the people who bring the good things.
Yes. Oh, that's so good.
Very nice. And that's the piece that's so often missing is getting started, the how to, where to part.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Thank you.
So you're welcome. Thank you for asking. So I have decided, so every Friday you remind to add to your pitch list. Beginning of the month, you start your compliment list and then set an appointment every day. Usually I've got it like at 6 o'clock. I will have the month wins 2025. And then I get the reminder, I put in the wins and I do a save as for the next day at that time. So I remember. And it's easy and it's at your fingertips. And what you can do at the end of the month is put it in like a journal document. So you've got everything categorized for the year. I found, because I used to do my win list just on a Google Doc because it was anywhere I was. Mm-hmm. But then to scroll down at the bottom was just kind of a pain. So that's why I like keeping it month to month. But why wouldn't you want to keep it somewhere or print it out and look at it when you need it? Because I think that's the thing that gets us stalled the most is not enough wins. We're like, oh, it's taking forever. When you write out your wins and you look at it, that's going to give you that burst of energy to say, oh, look what I've done so far. I'm just going to keep going because I can conquer the world.
Absolutely. And what you focus on expands. So when you're focusing on that wins, you're going to get more wins.
Without question.
And by writing it down, you know what you've accomplished.
Yes.
Yes. And we can all use the reminders and we can all use the attaboys and attagirls. Life is hard.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to always be hard all the time. When you are working towards those things that bring you joy that are ultimately going to help other people and bring them joy, that's, the best gift.
Yeah, absolutely.
Friends, this has been awesome. Yeah. Where can people learn more about each of you?
You can find me. My main platform is on Facebook, just Stacia Crawford on Facebook, or you can find me on LinkedIn as well.
And stayreadymedia.com.
StayReadyMedia.com is my website. Absolutely. You can go there, find out about me, my programs. Book an appointment to talk to me, and we can talk about how we can elevate your visibility and get your message out to the world.
Awesome. And Keith, are we sending people to keithspiro.com or keithspiromedia.com?
I would like to send people keithspiro.com. Have them take a look, see if it's succinct, if it makes sense. Certainly welcome comments, emails directly. Very easy. If you know my name, you can reach me by email or website.
And I am at the Deb Method everywhere. And if you go to thedebmethod.com/blog, you will get the recap, the goals, the links. And if you need a little bit of extra help with your goals, you can grab a copy of your goal guide or 52 Secrets for Goal Setting and Goal Getting at your favorite place to buy books. I feel refreshed and ready to take on the next quarter. How about the two of you?
Absolutely.
Absolutely good.
Audience, I hope you're saying woohoo at home. If you are, we hear you. And if you're not, we'll say it anyway. What final thought would you like to leave people with tonight? Keith, final thought?
Just do it. Just get started. When you hang up or you finish listening to this, just go out there, start that first list.
Okay. And Stacia?
Yeah, I think my final thought is just going to be, it's Q2. Time is not waiting for us. So just do it. Yeah, I'm with Keith. Just do it. Take the first step. And don't worry about everything else.
Right.
Just take that first step.
Just take that step.
I talk about instinct. Even your final thoughts were like... Well, I thank you so much, Stacia Crawford and Keith Spiro, for joining me today, for getting us. It's funny. I start the new year in December, and I only do things like the beginning of the year and quarterly year because, goal person. But I really feel like, especially with the state of the world right now, we needed this refreshing and reminder that there's still time. Not only is there still time, there is a lot of time to accomplish your goals.
Yeah.
You just need to take those steps and move forward and put in those pockets of joy. So you keep having that energy and that excitement to get you where you need to go. Thank you again, Stacia and Keith. Thank you for tuning in, whether you're watching us as GoalChat Live or the replay or listening to the GoalChat podcast on the Marketing Podcast Network. I'm Debra Eckerling, live every Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific with a panel. And we are here to help you reach your goals, because you can't reach your goals on your own. You need your people. So go on out there and go for it, because we know you can do it.
Yes.
Yep.